Well, after what happened to Charlie Kirk, there's a lot of people not only looking to open their Bibles for the very first time, but also looking to become first-time gun owners or even take this more seriously. And today I'm going to tell you about an activist group that may make this decision a little bit easier for you. They've sent a chilling message to gun owners and to people that think differently from them. Here's the thing though, they're gun owners themselves, but they're using Charlie's assassination to further divide and incite fear into those that don't think like them. Now, I want to make one thing very clear. This is not representative of most gun owners out there, but I do want you to keep in mind that these people are amongst us, right? And they've made it very clear how they feel about you for the way you believe or the things that you believe in. And so this is in no way to drum up additional fear, but for you to know what's actually going on out there so you can protect yourself. Now, I'd love to hear your opinion if you've been surprised with the uptick in the amount of people that have come out and just openly spewed hatred and inciting violence on their own. I mean, is this like eye-opening for you? How has this maybe changed you or affected you? I'd love to hear from you guys down below. Let's go and jump right in. So there's one thing very clear. After what happened to Charlie, you have seen the clear division between left, right, and then the crazies. And the crazies, a lot of them identify, I'd say the vast majority of them identify with the left or even far left. What we've seen from this is not just a difference of opinions, but outright hatred. And that's exactly the group we're talking about in this video. Now, who I'm talking about is the John Brown Gun Club. They passed out flyers that said, "Hey, fascist, catch," and essentially said, we're the only organization that celebrate when Nazis actually die. And then, of course, they have a QR code where you can join the John Brown Gun Club. Now, of course, they're referencing one of the engravings that was left on a shell casing from the guy who actually took Charlie Kirk's life. Now, these flyers were passed out at school, and some students started to notice, like, hey, are you really going to allow them to essentially promote, incite, and even celebrate violence after what just happened? Now, I think since those flyers have been removed, but you have to understand who they named the club after to kind of understand what their purpose is. Now, John Brown was born in 1800, and he was an abolitionist, but he was a radical abolitionist. He believed that the only way to end slavery was through violence. So his ideas didn't come from, somebody like Abraham Lincoln, right? I'm gonna run, I'm gonna, change the entire country. We fought an entire war over this, obviously. But pre-Civil War, he said, hey, there's only one way to change this, and this is to lead revolts and be violent against the people that don't agree with us. Starting to sound familiar, I hope. Him and his followers actually took the lives of like 5 pro-slavery settlers out in Kansas. They had the Harper's Ferry raid. So they took over the federal armory in Harper's Ferry, Virginia with like 21 men. And so he tried to lead this big revolt. Nobody really joined him. And eventually Robert E. Lee and his men took the armory back. They caught him, captured him, and then eventually hung him for treason. So some people seen him as a hero. Others saw him as a traitor. And it wasn't what he was fighting for, because that's noble, right? Slavery is evil, right? Again, we fought an entire war over this thing. Well, not entirely over it, but we did fight a war to end it. But the way in which he went about it, it was his ideology. It was his personal beliefs. It was his way. It wasn't going to be through politics. It was going to be, there's only one way to end this, and that is through violence. That is through taking the lives of those who don't agree with you instead of trying to change ideas. Now you probably get a better picture of why and who this gun club actually is. And when you take a look at some of the things they've been involved in, you're going to see exactly who they are. I mean, just in July of this past year, in 2025, they attacked an ICE detention center in Texas. Some of the allegations is, graffiti and attacking ICE and trying to lure officers to specific spots for ambushes. Benjamin Song, who is an alleged or kind of known associate or member of this gun club, is now facing actually federal murder charges and discharging a firearm. They attacked people that were protesting a drag event in Fort Worth. They also tried to, set propane tanks and commit arson. I think this was in Tacoma, Washington. against ICE agents. So as you can see, it's not through words and ideas and values. It's if you don't agree, we will attempt to or try to harm you or take your life, and that's where they draw the line. And we've done a lot of fighting in this country to get to the point where we are now. And what a lot of people won't acknowledge is that we live in one of the best times, especially right here in the United States. Everybody, and I mean everybody that lives here, has the opportunity to make a name for themselves, to go after the career they want to share their ideas online. You could share them with the entire world, right? You can make a real difference, you can have debates, all of this kind of stuff, but these are the kind of people that are trying to stifle it. And then you have the gun side of it, right? They don't want liberty and justice for all. They want it only for the people that think like them. Firearms are a God-given right that we all have, where the government has slowly started to chip away at that right, and we're constantly trying to take it back, of course. But we don't use firearms for coercion or intimidation. At its core, we use them to protect ourselves from a potentially tyrannical government. And then obviously there's many more benefits to that. No matter what side of the aisle you fall on, everybody has that right and should utilize that right. And they believe in breaking down the prison systems, tearing down the jails, all that kind of stuff. So no accountability. By them celebrating an assassination and celebrating confrontation, they essentially stand for everything that law-abiding gun owners reject. You've never heard me say once on this channel, and you never will, that gun rights are only for specific people. They are for all Americans. And with those freedoms comes, of course, a form of law and order, right? That's how our founders kind of figured this whole Constitution thing out, right? They along with separation of powers and a number of other things, they understood that an independent judiciary is key to keeping people civil, because it's always a mixture of good and bad people. Well, this group wants to break down the jail system. They want to remove police. They want to defund them. They want to attack ICE. Everything they stand for is totally anti-American, yet they stand on one of those foundational principles, or use one of those foundational principles to intimidate you to be quiet. But here's the thing. Here's what a lot of these groups are depending on. They're depending on us to take the high road. We've seen this uptick in this, far left-wing type of violence towards conservatives. It's happened on both sides, but there's definitely been an uptick from the left. And what they're depending on is you fearing that enough where you stay silent. And that's how they win. I say, do the complete opposite. Speak up for what you believe in. One thing Charlie always used to say is, when you stop using words, when you stop having dialogue, that's when violence happens. Doesn't mean that it won't continue to happen in some form, but you got to be prepared, and you also have to be prepared to stand up for what you believe in. These people are not representative of gun owners. They're not representative of most of us. What have you noticed since Charlie Kirk lost his life? Did you see a bunch of people burning down buildings, attacking police, rioting and looting? No. You saw prayer. And it's one of the most powerful rebuttals to the revolts that you're seeing from the other side. Seeing an absolute revitalization of prayer, ethics, morals in this country, unlike anything we've seen, I think, in a really long time. So we need to continue that and keep speaking up for truth. And here's the truth. For years, they have thrived on cancel culture, division, media dominance, and they built that foundation on sand, which is slowly starting to collapse from underneath them. So they're getting to a point where they're becoming desperate and using something like Charlie Kirk's assassination and this tragedy to ignite essentially what is a dying flame. We represent freedom and loyalty. And the way you fight back is clear. Live your values out loud. Show responsibility when they show recklessness. Show discipline when they choose chaos, but always be willing to defend those rights because they are worth defending. That's just my opinion. I'd love to hear yours. Let me know what you think down below. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.